The Darren Rizzi effect is 100% real. And in today's video, I'm going to explain what I mean and explain exactly what the Darren Rizzi effect is. But if you agree with the following statement, Darren Rizzi has been a much better head coach than Dennis Allen. This is the channel for you. Hit that sub button, lock us in, and let's get on with today's program. Second week of the Rizzler, baby, and that's the second victory Monday in a row here at Saints Now by Chat Sports. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I mentioned, we're going to dive into what is the Darren Rizzi effect? How has it impacted the team, and what does that mean for the next few weeks for the New Orleans Saints? But just first things first, I got to say, I am just so happy. I love the fact that the New Orleans Saints are winning football games again. And I get it. It's only been 2. But when you go on a 7-game losing streak, which ties for one of the worst in franchise history, 2 wins feels like a massive turnaround. And let's just be totally honest. Like, of course, when you were on that 7-game losing streak, a popular theme and a popular idea is, well, top 5 draft pick is pretty enticing. And I agree. Don't get me wrong. I totally agree. And I understand the desire for a high draft pick for the New Orleans Saints. But I also am kind of in the camp that it's way more fun on Sundays to watch these games when they're winning. And I'm also a firm believer, and this has kind of been a take that some people disagree with, and this is just my opinion. Tanking is not a real thing. It's a made-up idea by fans. It's a process and a thought that fans think you blow the entire thing up, and then in 6 months, it's all fixed. That is not the case. There's not nearly enough proof in that pudding that that is the most effective or even a good way of going about business. And there's been examples of success with the Philadelphia Eagles after they won their Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But then there's also been a lot of examples of it not working. I mean, outside of the Texans the past few years, before Deshaun Watson got there and everything happened there, they were not a good football team for a long time. The Cleveland Browns, still not a good football team. The Detroit Lions, it finally figured it out, and they're now a good football team. They're a great football team. But how long did it take? 10, 15 years before we really saw good football from any of those squads? Like, it's just way more fun to be watching the Saints win games. And like I said, like, these players, they have families to feed. They have to provide for themselves. They have rent to pay. This is their job, and nobody wants to lose their job. And to be honest, why would a player give a rat's ass about what the future of a team is if they're not even going to be on the roster? And on top of that, players don't get paid if there's bad football tape. So if you're not putting up good numbers and you're not playing well, you're not going to get a paycheck, whether it's from the team that you're on or whether it's from a different roster in free agency or trade or something like that. So tanking is just not a thing for me. It's not an option. And to be honest, it's a made-up idea that fans just kind of had created in their head to cope with bad football. And I get it. It's fine. But I'm not really a fan of the idea of tanking. And just I want to say one thing really quick. What's the Saints Now show without a jab at the Atlanta Falcons? Wouldn't it just be objectively hilarious to see the Atlanta Falcons have a 4-game lead in the NFC South and then for them to just blow it? How funny would that be? It would be one of the funniest things in the world. And especially if somehow, some way, the New Orleans Saints can rattle off all these wins and somehow make it to win the division. Like, that's kind of my point here. If the New Orleans Saints keep winning these games, I like that. I like that idea. Because in my opinion, I think the Saints are actually a little bit ahead of schedule if you continue to win these games. And what do you mean ahead of schedule, Trace? Well, what I mean is specifically in terms of the rebuild. You have a lot more confidence in your coaching staff. You have a lot more confidence in your players. You may only need to fix a few different things that realistically in an offseason can be a lot easier to fix. And on top of that, if you look at a rebuild and you look at the Saints, you're like, well, quarterback was bad. O-line was bad. They don't have a good play caller. They don't have a good head coach. They need cornerback depth. They need a wide receiver. They have no running backs behind Alvin Kamara. Sure, some of those can all be true to a certain extent. But if you can check the box of the offensive line, if you can check the box that Darren Rizzi's the guy, if you can check the box that Clint Kubiak's a good play caller, and hell, if Kendre Miller can stay healthy and he can be a good running back, you halfway check that box too. So you're ahead of schedule when it comes to rebuilding it. Because if you only have to fix 4 or 5 problems rather than 20, it's way easier to fix all of that. Now, coming up, I want to discuss the wild stats that the New Orleans Saints have been putting up since Darren Rizzi has taken over. Let's get into the Rizzi effect. Statistically, what the numbers are saying, because we all know that men lie, women lie, but stats don't. Really quick, though, I got to give a big-time shout-out to Public Rec. I know y'all love this shirt. I've worn it on the show multiple times, and I'm here to tell you, with the holiday season coming up, with Black Friday, Cyber Monday, all that coming up, Public Rec can get you suited up for the holidays and also make for a really good gift during the holiday season. And fellas, I know you're in the market for something that looks great and fits even better, because to be totally honest, that's the situation that I'm in. I want to revamp my wardrobe. I want to make it a better looking wardrobe. And on top of that, I want to feel good while I look good. And Public Rec can help you do the same thing. Whether you're just kicking it back with some holiday movies, or you're making your way through leftovers, or watching some bowl games with the fellas, these pants got you covered. Heck, they'll even keep you looking sharp for that awkward holiday party with your in-laws. Public Rec not only has the most comfortable pants ever made, but they have a huge selection of high-quality, everyday basics that you can revamp your entire wardrobe with, and their perfect-fitting polos, shorts, hoodies are so comfortable, they look good, and they feel good. And Smitty, I just want to show off this shirt really quick because it's just so nice. And I've told you this before, lads. My girlfriend, Maddie, she loves this shirt. And I'll tell you what, I love her when I wear this shirt because I love what it does to her. And it's stretchy. It feels good. Look, no pit stains or nothing. I mean, come on. What more can you ask for in a high-quality shirt? You can revamp your entire wardrobe with their perfect-fitting polos, shorts, hoodies, and so much more. Stop suffering in regular pants and give the gift of comfort this holiday season. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off when you use code CHAT20 at checkout. That's 20% off with the code CHAT20. That's CHAT20 at publicrec.com. After you purchase your items, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Say goodbye to pants that put up a fight, because when comfort meets style, you have found Public Rec. So let's get into the numbers and let's talk about the Rizzi effect, because the New Orleans Saints, not just statistically, just the eye test, they're playing so much better football. It's more physical. It's smarter. It's cleaner. The scheme is better. Like, everything about it, ever since Darren Rizzi has taken over, has been better, including the effort and including everything else. And in case you didn't know, I found it pretty interesting. I was scouring the internet, kind of looking for some crazy stats, and Ross Jackson actually pointed this one out. I thought it was very, very interesting. Darren Rizzi is the second coach in franchise history to start off their tenure as a head coach 2-0. The last guy who did that, you won a Super Bowl for your football team. What's wrong with that information? But it's not just that. I got to give a lot of credit to Darren Rizzi for how well he's made the offense perform. Under Dennis Allen, the Saints offense, in terms of the passing yards, 206.1 yards per game. Now, it's 264 yards per game. Granted, this is obviously a 9-game sample size versus a 2-game sample size. That being said, damn near everything favors Darren Rizzi. And it's not just offensively, it's defensively as well. The defense has been better under Darren Rizzi, which, when you consider the fact that Dennis Allen is a defensive-minded head coach, it's pretty shocking. They obviously give up a lot more passing yards. That's okay. Less turnovers. That's okay. Because what's the record again? Oh, yeah, 2-0. And what was the record under Dennis Allen? Oh, yeah, 2-7. Oh, and on top of that, did Dennis Allen ever go on a 3-game win streak in his tenure? No, he didn't. He didn't. Not even once. So Darren Rizzi has the opportunity to take down Dennis Allen in yet another metric. But this one is the weirdest one. Like, I was making jokes about this on the watch party, and when I looked at the numbers, I was like, oh my God, this is actually real. This is 100% a real thing. Versus Dennis Allen, kickers at the Superdome are 6 for 7 on field goals. That's just home games. And that's opposing kickers, obviously. For Darren Rizzi, the number's actually technically 1 for 7, because The Browns kicker yesterday missed mixed a field goal that there's a flag on, so it ended up not even really technically counting. So it's technically 1 for 7, but 1 for 6 in field goals in the box score and everything like that. So I don't know what happened. I don't know how it's going on. I don't know what changes were made, but I can tell you one thing. I know for a fact that Darren Rizzi put a gree on the field goal post in New Orleans. I mean, it's literally impossible for an opposing kicker to make a field goal. Not only did we see the Browns kicker miss multiple times, Dustin Hopkins, and he's not like he's an unreliable kicker. He's been decent and been pretty good in his career. But he missed from about 40, 50-yard range. He missed right up close on a chip shot. Like, I don't know what is going on, but Darren Rizzi, he's got some voodoo magic going on in the Superdome, and I'm all here for it. And I'll tell you what, if keeping him around is all it takes, then to keep that magic, I'm for keeping him around for the long term. But as always, we got to keep celebrating the holidays. Merry Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. If you have been impressed with what you've seen from Darren Rizzi's football team, I need you to get down in the comment section. Give me a Riz. Give me a Riz in the comment section right now. Right now. Type those Rizzes in the chat if you've been impressed. All right, so just a kind of few more things that I want to talk about as well. More statistics, more information. The performance has improved for the team. There's no question about it. We've looked at some numbers. We've looked at some information. And we've talked about my opinions. But one thing we haven't mentioned is the scheme. The play calling is better. The schematics of the team are better. How the game plan works is better. The minor details are making major impacts in a positive way that for the New Orleans Saints. And these are changes that have been made since Darren Rizzi has taken over. The play calling has been great. I thought Clint Kubiak was absolutely balls deep in his bag last night. Yesterday. He was so good. The play calling was creative. There was a lot of motion. I mean, we saw Derek Carr go out in motion. That's awesome. Saw some cool little shuttle pass screens to Alvin Kamara. I loved it. We saw Tamm Hill have the opportunity to throw the ball, run the ball, and catch the ball. Yes! Thank you! That is what we've been looking for this entire time since Dennis Allen has been taking over. And for the second week in a row, Derek Carr was excellent against the blitz. Shout out to Ross Jackson for pointing this number out. 5 for 5 on blitzes, 117 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'm not here to say I'm not the biggest Derek Carr fan. I'm not. I don't hate the guy. I don't think he's the worst quarterback that's ever picked up a football. But that's pretty good stuff. And if he keeps putting up good numbers and he keeps doing what he's been doing the past couple of weeks, in my opinion, that's good enough for me to keep things going until you really know you have a great option in a Jay Kaner, a Spencer Rattler, or a different option. I was going to say like a draft or a free agency addition, if you will. Ross Jackson also pointing out some more next-gen stats. I thought this was really cool. Shout out to Talanoa Hufanga because holy cow, he just continues to get better. And per next-gen stats, the Browns defensive end Myles Garrett, who in my opinion is one of the best edge rushers and one of the best sack artists in the National Football League, just 2 pressures against the New Orleans Saints yesterday. It's the lowest total of a single game pressures for Garrett this season. His 8% pressure percentage was also the lowest of his career. It's absolutely insane. And on top of that, Tamm Hill, he had a crazy day. He had an absolutely wild day. 138 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns, 7 carries. Every one of those touchdowns came from the Wildcat alignment. In Wildcat formation, Tamm Hill is electric. 126 yards from 3 touchdowns from Wildcat, both the most in the game in the next-gen stats era since 2016. So let's go look at the rushing chart. Look what happened when the Saints are in Wildcat formation. You see Tamm Hill do a lot of really, really good things. You can see him take it to the house. Obviously, there's a fumble lost. It happens. It's okay. It's very uncharacteristic of him. Where you got to call it out. But then you had that long there it is. There it is, right there. That long touchdown. You had that long touchdown way up here, and you had this touchdown right here. So I'm here to say Tamm Hill, he's been electric. But wait, there's more. Catherine Terrell doing a little extra research with ESPN. Tamm Hill is the first player with 3 rushing touchdowns, 50 receiving yards, and 1 pass completion in a game since Ed Podolak in 1971. Were any of you watching alive in 1971? Honest question. I'm genuinely curious because I wasn't. My dad was barely alive. It's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy, all things considered. And, like, just when I go back to how Talese Fuwanga and how, like, the Myles Garrett stat, when I go back to talking about that, it just makes me so proud of Trevor Penning. It makes me so proud of Talese Fuwanga because, like I mentioned earlier, if they are good, if your tackles on the outside are good, you're setting yourself up for success for the long term. And again, it has to go right. All the things need to be positive. But when you're shutting down Myles Garrett, when you're shutting down Micah Parsons, when you're shutting down the entire pass rush for the Atlanta Falcons, when you're putting up quality reps against top pass rushers at a very young age, sue me for wanting to be a little bit excited about it, but I think that is a good sign. Now, final thoughts here. Everyone is playing better. Not just the players. I think the coaches are coaching better. I think the staff is performing better. I think the medical situation is better. I think everything about this team is much better than it was just 3 weeks ago. This also feels like a team. It doesn't feel like a group of guys wearing the same helmet. It doesn't feel like a group of guys who have the same sticker on their side of their helmet. It doesn't feel like a group of guys who just all are getting paid by the same dude to go play the game that they like. This is a team. It's a cohesive unit. It is a squad. It is a group, a strong group with quality veteran leadership, granted a lot of injuries, but a good group nonetheless that have proven when they have decent leadership, they can be a quality team. And one thing, I was talking about this on a Twitter space yesterday with my guy Steven. He's a Saints fan from the UK. And I thought he hit the nail on the head when he said, Darren Rizzi is a leader of men. That's not what Dennis Allen ever was. Darren Rizzi commands respect. He commands a room. When he talks, people listen. And when you can command and you can navigate that talent, it is so much better than having talent without a good leader. You can have all of the talent in the world with no leadership. Doesn't matter. You're not going to do anything. And to be totally honest, I just haven't felt this at ease watching Saints games since Sean Payton was around in that 2021 season. Like, it feels good to not necessarily have to wake up and be like, here we go, another Saints game day. I wake up excited to watch these games. It's nice. I'm sorry for saying it, but I like these winning. I like the winning streak that we're going on. I like what Darren Rizzi's doing. And I'm starting to convince myself that he might be the guy. So I want to ask you this question. Should he be the guy? Is Darren Rizzi the next head coach? Should he be the next head coach? Let me know in the comments section. Sound off, Who Dat Nation, and y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.